How's it going, everybody? Izzy Presley here. It is time for episode number 26 of another effing podcast. Got a lot of great stuff lined up. A big-time fantasy football preview by the one and only, the fantasy football guru of the show, Jeff Bauer. We all know him as Bobber. Nice, long conversation about fantasy football. He's going to be on every week, and that is coming to the kind of a big announcement. Show will be moving to Tuesday nights now, just because of the fantasy football factor, and give him a chance to take in all the weekend's happenings and move on to the next week and give you people that you should play every week. But we had a nice little draft preview, draft wrap-up kind of little conversation, so look forward to that. Also got a lot of great stories lined up. Also, make sure you check out the sponsors, rockstarleatherworks.com. That's rockstarleatherworks.com, your home for leather bands and watches. You want some really cool gear, you want to style and profile while you walk that aisle. Woo! That's right, rockstarleatherworks.com. Just go on there right now as you're listening to the show, rockstarleatherworks.com. You can do it on your phone, and you can do it on your interweb, right on your porn box there. Whatever you got to do. Oh, yeah, make sure you go to iTunes, look up Another Effing Podcast, and you can follow the show. You can subscribe and send your feedback. I would really, really appreciate it if you did. If you just want to keep doing it on the Spreaker, that's fine too. And, of course, a whole lot of back episodes up on YouTube also. Follow me on Twitter, Izzy_Presley. The Facebook is facebook.com/Another Effing Podcast. And, of course, the email is izzypresleyproductions.com. And, of course, that leads you right to the website also, izzypresleyproductions.com. If you need PR, marketing, any of that good stuff, hit me up. We'll talk. I'm affordable. A lot of PR isn't. I am. That's your chance to get going if you need any help in any of that realm. But with that said, got a lot to get to. Let us get into another effing podcast.
Hi, this is Bobby Brown, and welcome to another fucking podcast.
You kids with your loud music and your Dan Fogelberg, your Zima, hula hoops, and Pac-Man video games, don't you see? People today have attention spans that can only be measured in nanoseconds.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Hollywood. Hello, world. Hello, my loyal minions. It is good to see you, and it's always good to be seeing Izzy Presley in the door for another episode of another fucking podcast. Lots of stuff to get to this week. Got a few stories. I got a little rant. And we'll close the show out with a nice little conversation all the way from the heart of Packerland, right smack dab in the middle of Wisconsin, with the fantasy football guru for the show. His name is Jeff Bauer. We affectionately call him Bobber. I'm going to come up with another nickname for him too. Just, just for the sake of doing that. But we got a lot of stuff to get to. Before we move forward, if you are in the Los Angeles area, if you're looking for a reason to come to the Los Angeles area, a lot of people heard the Monty Pittman episode, which was a couple weeks ago. He is Madonna's guitar player. He played with Prong, and he's got his own solo project called Monty Pittman. The new record is called The Power of Three. They are playing at the world-famous Whiskey A Go-Go. That is it Friday or Saturday? It's September 27th. I think it's a Saturday. You know damn well I am going to be in the house for that. Also, September 12th, check out Accept in Beverly Hills at the Saban Theater. Accept with Metal Church and Raven. That's going to be a whole lot of metal, and I cannot wait. Accept is only playing, as of right now on this tour, they're only doing 4 shows in the United States, and it's down by San Diego, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and then to New York, and then they are off to Europe for the rest of the year. So if you want to see Accept, make sure you get your ass to Los Angeles and check him out, because that is going to be one killer show. Accept, Metal Church, and Raven. I cannot wait to bleed metal, to sweat metal. It shall be a glorious, glorious thing. Oh yeah, don't forget, I am on iTunes now. Just go on to iTunes, look for Another Effing Podcast, and click that little subscribe button. You can leave feedback, tell me what you think, and you can do that on Spreaker also. Spreaker.com/users/Izzy Presley. All the shows are up on there. If you want to contribute to the show, please do, because, well, there's a lot of stuff I want to do with the show, and I can't, financially do it myself. And if you guys want it to get better, you can send some money and contribute to the show. It'll all go towards that. Izzy.presley@gmail.com is your PayPal. Izzy.presley@gmail.com is your PayPal. Please contribute. Please help out. Please keep the show free. And it'll just keep growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh, man, where do I want to start? Probably the big news that broke today. There was a whole slew of female celebrities whose nude images started to circulate on the interweb. Jennifer Lawrence being the big name in there. I'm just going to go down the list of names here. Let's see, where did that list go? Let's see. Allie and AJ McCauley, Aubrey Plaza, Abby Elliott, Avril Lavigne, Amber Heard, Brie Larson, she is gorgeous, Candace Swain Pohl, Cara Delevingne, how the hell you say that? Emily, there's a whole freaking slew. Jamie McCarthy, we've already seen her. Kate Upton, Kate Bosworth, Mary-Kate Olsen. I didn't see any of those. Because, like any good reporter did, I had to go look for them just to see if they were legit, yada, yada, yada. Well, apparently the Jennifer Lawrence ones were. She came out and said they were. And Mary E. Winstead had a little bit to say on Twitter, so obviously those are her too. Those of you looking at photos I took with my husband years ago in the privacy of our own home, hope you feel great about yourselves. Knowing those photos were deleted long ago, I can only imagine that creepy effort went into this. Feeling for everyone who got hacked. This story is coming from Mashable.com by Dario Strange. I wonder if that's his real name. Can't be. It's got to be a gimmick. Let's see. Let's start this story off. A major trove of celebrity images, including images alleged to be actress Jennifer Lawrence nude, began spreading all over the web and Twitter Sunday morning. That's today. Early word on the images began spreading on 4chan. Not sure what that is, but looks like they're the one that broke them. Early in the day, while posters claimed that the images were the result of a hacker intrusion on a number of iCloud accounts, and that the images including nude celebrities such as Victoria Justice, Emily Browning, Kate Bosworth, Jenny McCarthy, and Kate Upton. When contacted by Mashable, a spokesperson for Jennifer Lawrence issued the following statement. This is a flagrant violation of privacy. Authorities have been contacted and will prosecute anyone who posts the stolen photos of Jennifer Lawrence, which of course is just admitting that, yes, those are her. And I looked at them just because I wanted to, see what all the hoof was about. And yeah, they look pretty good. Compliments to her. But this is the thing though. I think everybody has some kind of those photos on their phone. And there's this app that I love to use. I've got some of myself and some that female friends have sent me. There's this app called KeepSafe where they are locked in there. You can only get into that app with a password. And that's where they're all stored. That way, if a breach like this happens, boom, they're not up on your iCloud. Nobody can get into them in your phone without that password. It's a pretty cool thing. I mean, I'm not making it sound like I have women sending me naked photos all the time. Not that I would complain. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But just be careful out there. You know what? I think this calls for. I think this calls for public service announcement. Just for anybody that's worried about this. I happen to make one just for you. And if you'd like to hear it, here it is. Like almost everybody, you have a smartphone. You have naughty pictures in that phone. Maybe it's a banana in your cooch while you're flicking your bean. Or maybe it's something tame like you're holding your boob and smiling for the camera. Like me, I have many pictures of my wang, but I don't want everybody to see them. You have them on stock just in case that right person gets to see those very intimate photos. Use KeepSafe. Keep them locked away so only you can see them and send them when you want, or just send them to me. That's what I do with my wang pictures. I've got some good healthy ones, but I don't want the whole world to see them. Keep them safe. Keep them locked up. Or just send them to me. See, I think that's very informative. I hopefully that catches somebody's heart. You know, I mean, I'm here to help. I really am. And look, I personally know somebody that, all joking aside, that has her photos up on a website, one of these berate my ex fucking websites, and, you know, just saying horrible things and all these naked photos of her. And it's fucked up, man. You know, so she's been dealing with it for a year. You know, lawyers and all that, all and such. And it's really unfortunate, you know. So celebrities is a little bit different story. I mean, yeah, a guy sees a hot girl in a movie, and what's he automatically do? Googles to see her boobs. Because there's a good chance that they are on the internet if she showed them in a movie at some point. But, you know, the personal photos, that's a little bit different. I mean, one of them that it was a video of, and I'm not going to say who, I'm not going to tell you where I saw the photos, because that's really not what this is about. Because, you know, it was just journalistic integrity on my part. You know, the videos of her waking up and saying hi to her boyfriend, and then backing up and boom, there's her boobs. But that shit shouldn't come out. I mean, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. You just got to be safe about it. You really do. You want to do that stuff, that's great. Just be safe about it. Use KeepSafe, and they have nothing to do with the show. It's a free app. I mean, it's for your protection. It really is. And, you know, even if you're not famous, iCloud. That's how this whole thing happened. iCloud. Just be safe. Be careful. All joking aside, just be careful. Oh yes. Here's a good one. Kiss security guard sues over confetti fall. Big bad security guard. Cleaning up after the show. Fall down, go boom on stage because this is from MSN, music.msn.com. Kiss security guard sues over confetti fall. Kiss star Gene Simmons has been slapped with a legal action from a concert security guard who allegedly slipped and fell in the band's confetti during a gig in 2012. The Rockers celebrated the end of the show as they always do at the Klipsch Music Center in Noblesville, Indiana. Of course it was in America, because that's what we do. You fall down, you sue somebody by spraying water and confetti all over the stage. Pardon me. And over members of the crowd. Hold on one sec. I shouldn't be drinking cans of Coke because it just makes me belchy, as you'll hear in the fantasy football interview. However, security official Timothy Funk claims the foolish and reckless stunt put his safety at risk after he tumbled on the slippery, waxy, and glassy stage floor. Now he's suing for damages. He has filed papers in Hamilton Superior Court near Indianapolis, seeking compensation for undisclosed injuries, loss of wages, and other charges. Simmons is named as the defendant alongside venue bosses and officials at the concert promotion firm Live Nation. Folks, this is what our country has become. Fall down, go boom. Blame it on somebody else. I mean, not thinking about the fact that when Kiss is on stage, they are walking in boots with 7-inch heels on them. They don't slip and fall. You're doing your job. There was confetti on the floor and I fell. So now you owe me money. I'm sorry, but if you got that fucked up over slipping, I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. I mean, there was actually a point too where somebody tried to sue because they got hit with a pick. Because Kiss, and almost every band does, throw picks into the crowd. Kiss throws a lot of picks into the crowd. Somebody got hit and they wanted to sue the band. I mean, that's why they had to stop throwing out the broken guitar. Because somebody sued because the guitar chords, the strings cut them. So I'm suing because I got a little paper cut from a guitar string. And by doing that, you just ruin it for everybody. And now, of course, Kiss is making more money off of it because Paul Stanley sells those guitars now, much like Nikki Sixx does from Motley Crue. See, this is what happens. You're looking out for yourself. You got some stupid lawsuit. And everybody suffers. Everybody. And it's like that old lady, McDonald's drive-thru got burned with coffee. You're drinking coffee. You know that it is hot. Granted, she's an old lady and she did get burned pretty bad, but still. Affects everybody. It really does. And hopefully this thing is settled. Hopefully this thing is thrown out of court. But I'm sure it'll be settled at some point. It won't go to court, but it'll be settled. And we'll never hear what the actual injuries were. And we'll never hear what the actual amount was. And I'm sure he'll get paid. But what's that going to do? Hey, we have to pay this stupid lawsuit off. So, hey, guess what? Tickets are going up in price. And so this doesn't happen anymore. We can't shoot confetti anymore because we don't want anybody to fall down and go boom. Get over yourself. Just get over yourself. These people piss me off. Abso-fucking-lutely piss me off. And actually, I that brought me to another story on MSN. MSN Music. This is about Miley Cyrus. Oh my God. Miley Cyrus. Elvis Presley twerked. Pop star Miley Cyrus says music icon Elvis Presley danced in a sexy way, but was not blamed for it because he is a man. I'm just going to let that sink in for 1 second. Singer regularly comes out under fire for provocative dance moves and outfits and for stripping naked in music videos and magazine shoots. Big whoop. She believes there is a double standard because she is shamed for onstage behavior while the king was not, telling Australian 7 TV show Sunday Night. Elvis, he wasn't wearing the outfits I was wearing, but he was coming out and doing like the OG twerking. Like no one wants to admit that he was twerking. He was like sex. He was a symbol of sex, but no one would ever call Elvis a slut because he wasn't a girl. It's that double standard that I think I'm doing something for the double standard. You're a fucking idiot. If you know your history, one, Elvis wasn't twerking. There's a difference between Elvis shaking his hips and shaking his legs and sticking your ass up in the air, bending over, and shaking it like you're fucking riding a cock compared to what Elvis was doing. Yes, for the time, Elvis was dancing provocatively. But this is absolutely ridiculous. Saying Elvis Presley twerked as an excuse for your whorish, and I'll say it, whorish behavior on stage. But sex sells. I mean, I don't blame you for doing it. Hell, if I could get paid to shake my wang, I would. Any offers on the table for that? That would be awesome. I probably would. I have a healthy wang. If I don't say so myself. Miley, you have no idea what you're talking about. Leave the king alone. Leave the king alone. There was another story too that really set me off a little bit. There was this gimmick that happened in is it Cambridge, Minnesota? Let's see. Was it Cambridge or somewhere in that area? Where the dance line coach or the dance coach, they had let me see if I can find the story here, because I don't want to. I want to make sure I do this justice. All right, Minnesota dance coach fired high school. Let's see. Cannon Falls. That was close. Cambridge, Cannon Falls. Same diff. This comes from care11.com. That was the news station I used to watch when I lived back there. Stop that! Stop that! Stop that! We're not going to play that on the air. I'll read it for you. Janelle Klein wrote this story from Care 11. Cannon Falls, Minnesota. The Cannon Falls dance team is one of Minnesota's finest, and its coach has been named the best in the state. As they bonded for the upcoming season, the 53-girl dance team, is Christ, on the Cannon Falls dance team, held a lock-in last month at their high school, a yearly tradition that Coach Mandy Salisbury often says often involves spooking younger members, similar to a haunted house. Unfortunately, this is a prank that went really bad, says Cannon Falls Superintendent Beth Giese, I don't know how you spell it. And it's all about the safety of our kids. Safety because this year's students and staff who are not part of the team helped with the prank. Jumping out of the dark, scaring the kids with pop guns, toys that some girls thought were real. These are the students that are suffering, Giese said. And we do feel that we're going to lose students that were a part of this program because they're unable to enter the building because they are scared. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you seriously kidding me? It's a haunted house. Nobody's going to have a real gun. It's meant to scare you. It's meant to have fun. It's meant to be an all fun. But this is what the problem is. This is what the problem is with our society today. 20 years ago, this wasn't a big deal. Whatever. This is the overprotective nature. Pardon me. See? Coke. A cola. This can says friend. You know, friend. Better Off Dead reference. Hopefully everybody got that. Because they're scared. They're also losing their coach. The school board voted on Monday not to renew Salisbury's contract. She says that she knew nothing about the toy guns beforehand and is sorry that this happened. Okay, one, she didn't know about it, so how is it her fault? Oh, yeah, because she's the coach of the team, so everything's her fault, right? And so is the school, which says it can't discuss all the details, but this was a clear violation of both its hazing and weapons rules. And this is what I wanted to bitch about. hazing. But let's finish the story. Without that information, people are making a snap judgment on what occurred that night. This is not such a rash decision. It took a couple weeks to make this decision. Giese said students who need counseling to able to get it. They need counseling. And they're no longer going to allow school lock-ins. Oh my God. Hazing. It's called initiation. Okay? And what they do now, as compared to what it used to be, back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, is nothing. Oh my God, they put syrup in my hair. They're hazing me. They have to be expelled. Oh my God, we were in they had a lock-in and it was a scary haunted house type thing. And they had fake guns. They were pop guns. And now I'm scared to go into school because I think somebody's going to have a gun when I go to school because of the pop guns. And they scared me. Get over your little self. Come on. Do me a favor. I put it up on the show page. Facebook.com/another effing podcast. You should go like that, by the way. And watch the little clip I put up from Dazed and Confused. If you're familiar with the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Ben Affleck and the other football players grabbed the freshman after practice, bent him over a car with a big wooden paddle, and knocked the crap out of their ass. That was initiation. And you know what happened after that? They were at a party together afterwards. Like what it used to be when you'd get in a fight in a bar, the fight would finish, and you know what usually happened? The two guys that were fighting would end up drinking together. Goes back to that whole bullying thing. The kid that finally stands up to the bully and fights him and knocks his fucking dick in the dirt, they usually end up being best friends. Not anymore. Because if you fight back, if you stand up for yourself, you're part of the problem. And the only way to handle the problem is by tattletaling. Telling somebody, this guy's making fun of me and I don't like what he's doing, so make him stop. Make him stop yourself. I was bullied like you would not believe. And my biggest regret is I never balled up my fist and threw a punch. Because that's what it is. The bully thinks that they are bigger and stronger than you, that you're not shit. But oh wait, this little scaredy cat's fighting back? Huh, he just gave me a bloody nose. I'm not going to pick on him anymore. Boom. It's done. Not anymore. This is just absolutely ridiculous. I luckily never got initiated when I was in high school. But I was just one of the dorks, so I wasn't a football player. I think I played baseball freshman year, but that was it. Never had to deal with any of that. And God, people used to get their asses handed to them. Their asses kicked, but it was just part of initiation. They get up, they dust themselves off, go about their day. They took it like a man, and they went on about it. Not anymore. Not anymore. And there's also something that coming out of the story too, that they're looking at federal charges. I think this is the same story that was talking about federal charges. Oh my God. It was a haunted house lock-in. Adam Carolla made the fucking statement. He's made it all along, and hell, he actually named one of his books it. 50 years will all be chicks. And It's happening. It is happening faster than you would not fucking believe. It's because of shit like this. A lady lost her job over this. I'm going to say that again. A lady lost her job over this, and it's bullshit, and it's got to stop. We need to take our country back. We need to teach our kids not to be pussies. Stand up for yourself. Don't be a pussy. Because that's what everybody is now. Everybody's pussified. Everybody has to wear a helmet when they're on their bike because and knee pads and elbow pads because if they fall off, they might get hurt. Well, you know what? I never wore a fucking helmet. I never wore knee pads. I never wore elbow pads. I'm walking, living, and breathing to this day. We used to go on the playgrounds that were tar playgrounds with your slides and your swings and those wheel things that spun around really, 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 really fast. Yeah, those were on tar. And this is the thing that happened. If somebody did fall down and scrape their knee, they learned a lesson. They learned a valuable lesson. God, maybe I shouldn't do that again. Maybe I'll take it a little bit easy next time because I don't want to fall down and scrape the other knee or break my arm or break my leg. No, we just have to take that all out of the equation so we can protect everybody. That's where we're at, folks. That is where we're at, and it pisses me off more and more and more each day. I'm sick of it. And you should be sick of it too. Hey, you need a car. You're in the Los Angeles area. I have a place for you. It is called One Stop Auto. It's in Highland Park, Eagle Rock area, right on the corner of York and Eagle Rock. They work with people. You got bad credit, you got horseshit credit, you got no credit. They can help you. They were able to get me approved with my horrible credit. I'm driving a BMW. You could be too. You could be too. That's OneStopAutoLA.com. That's the number one, StopAutoLA.com. Check out what they have in stock. Check out what, pardon me. Damn Coca-Cola. I have to stop drinking Coca-Cola when I'm doing shows. Check them out. OneStopAutoLA.com. It's OneStopAutoLA.com. Well, folks, it is time for the fantasy football discussion. His name is Jeff Bauer. We affectionately call him Bobber. He is the fantasy football guru of the show. I'm still trying to figure out the audio stuff. So the sound quality isn't exactly the best. But here it is. This is a good half hour of fantasy football talk. You got your draft coming up. You're looking who to start, week one, who to avoid week one, who your sleepers might be. Good old Bobber Floozy is coming to you straight from the middle of the heartland, straight from the middle of Packer country, and I feel sorry for him every day for having to live there. Here is the one and only Jeff Bauer, our fantasy football guru, for another effing podcast. All right. It is time for that fantasy football guru that I promised. He is a childhood friend. He is very experienced in the fantasy football world. Like I said on the Facebook page, he wishes he had the hair of Mel Kiper and the lisp of Bill Simmons. Please, everybody, welcome Jeff Bauer. We call him Bobber to the show. Bobber, how are we today, man?
I'm doing good. Other than the fact I'm living in Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Well, I don't think...
in a little Cheeseheadville.
I don't wish that upon anyone at all, man. We had our draft today. And what'd you think?
I thought it was good. It was a 12-man league that can both go a little bit longer. And like I told you earlier, it's difficult because you really got to hit on those early draft picks. Otherwise, you're going to be in for a long year unless you pick somebody up off the waiver wire.
Do you find it tougher drafting against people that you don't know?
I do, yeah. I mean, because like in leagues that I've done with you in the past, I mean, it's a given that Vikings are going to go higher,
Right.
and people in NFC North are going to go higher than some of the other divisions. But with how the internet's been, how you can get on ESPN or you can get on Yahoo and listen to all these people and get all this information, it's different than it used to be when you had to pick up a magazine and read through it and kind of do your own research. You don't really need to do that anymore.
Yeah, because you really just got everything right at your fingertips, and you got your draft board right there saying, having how everybody ranks. I did get a little chuckle that they had Christian Ponder ranked above Matt Castle. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that doesn't make Ponder hasn't even. I was, and we can maybe get in the draft a little bit, but I still think quarterback as a whole is a really overvalued position in fantasy football, unless you can get a year like Peyton Manning had last year, or you get a guy like Aaron Rodgers. You can go down and you can go down the line, especially in a 12-man league when running backs and wide receivers, good ones, shore up. I mean, you can end up you'll get a guy like Carson Palmer who led the league in scoring for quarterbacks the last 7 weeks last year.
Right.
I'm not saying I want him as my starter going into the year, but you can find people. You're going to find guys like McNown from Chicago last year. You're going to see quarterbacks, step up, and it's a position where running back it's not as easy.
Right, and do you think? Well, especially in today's day and age of being such a passing league, you think running backs are kind of getting overvalued too?
It depends what type of scoring system you have. Like, you've been in some of my leagues where it's heavily weighted towards, receptions and stuff.
Yep.
And I like doing one of those every year just because it's kind of like what the football is now, it seems like. But I still think, you got Peterson, you got Jamal Charles, you got McCoy. You can throw Matt Forte into that bunch. But after that, it really falls off. It's kind of really hit or miss. There's nobody out there that you go, oh, I got Giovanni Bernard. I'm going to have a great year this year. Or I got Arian Foster, who used to be a really good player, but he's had 2 back surgeries.
Right. Well, and
it's a struggle.
Well, a lot of it is too, especially with running backs. The running backs that catch a lot of passes are really seem to be more valued now, as far as especially fantasy wise.
Because they're not going off the field in third down. You're going to see that with the Vikings this year with Adrian Peterson. I wanted to draft Peterson, but I don't like drafting Vikings because if they do lose and he has a bad week, it's like a double whammy for me.
Right.
I kind of like to stay away from that. But you're going to see that with Pearson and North Turner's offense. He's not going to be coming off the field on third downs. And he's going to be passed to a lot. Because you look at the San Diego offense when he ran in there.
Right.
Tomlinson was catching 40, 50 balls a year. I think you're going to see less carries out of Peterson between the 20 and 25 mark. And you're going to see more targets out of the backfield for him.
Well, do you think his quote-unquote hand problems are going to affect that at all? Or do you think that's just, he doesn't really catch that many passes and that's why?
I don't think so. I mean, he doesn't get targeted a lot. North Turner is really, a lot of people give him a hard time. I was reading a couple articles this week where they said, they could have coached the Dallas Cowboys and they probably would have won Super Bowls.
Right.
And there's some validity to that. But Troy Aikman ran into some real problems in the early Cowboy years. If you remember when they drafted Steve Walsh, and then Walsh actually was the starter for a while.
Oh, that's right.
And then Aikman came through, and he was a big part of that offense. And I think he is the number one reason why Teddy Bridgewater got drafted. Teddy Bridgewater is a perfect North Turner quarterback. He's mobile inside the pocket. He's not going to run for a lot of yards like an Aaron Rodgers or a Luck or RG3 or Russell Wilson. But he's really accurate between that 0 to 25-yard mark. And that's what the West Coast offense is with North Turner, quick passes.
Who do you think?
How many times? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your statement.
I was just going to say, people have this revisionist history about football. Watch old 49er games with Joe Montana. How many times was he throwing down the field? He wasn't.
Right.
The problem is Jerry Rice was great after the catch.
Right.
They would run these quick slants with him, 10-yard ins, and he'd catch it and he'd be gone.
Yeah.
Joe Montana didn't have a strong arm.
No, he didn't. He really did. He was just very accurate.
Yep. He didn't throw interceptions. He could read defenses. And even look at Manning. I mean, Manning really can't throw the ball farther than 25 yards.
Right. Well, not
He
anymore.
doesn't need to. No, he used to be able to, yeah.
Well, that's going to happen as a quarterback gets older too. They're going to lose some of that arm strength. There might be some people listening that haven't done their draft yet. Who would you? What's some names that pop out to you that you would really take a look at that aren't really the quote unquote marquee players?
I'll give you a couple. Carlos Hyde from the San Francisco 49ers. Frank Gore is old. He's 32, 33, I believe. And he's used very sparingly, especially in the preseason. I saw Carlos Hyde, and I'm not a big proponent of watching preseason games and determine who to draft based on that.
Right.
Other than rookies. When rookies show that flash, and Carlos Hyde just popped off the screen, and I watched running for 20, 30 yards. He played behind a huge physical San Francisco 49ers offensive line. I think in your traditional scoring league, Carlos Hyde is going to be a starter on your team towards the end of the year because I think he's going to get the goal line carries.
Okay.
He's a young back. They're looking at transitioning Gore out of there. I think he's going to be a really good one. Another one, a rookie. These are the two rookies that I really put more higher grades on is Brandon Cooks from New Orleans. And I know you're going to say, hey, those are people you drafted today.
I don't even know who people drafted. It was just going so fast. I just like, damn it, I was going to. All right.
Brandon Cooks is a speed burner, rookie this year, and he plays for the New Orleans Saints. He's a short guy. He's going to be their main slot guy, kind of like Wes Welker, minus the big helmet. And he is fast. He runs about a 4.2, 4.3 40, playing in a Drew Brees offense on turf. New Orleans really hasn't had a lot of speed burners. They've had guys like Robert Meacham and stuff who just aren't great at running pass routes. Brandon Cooks is excellent at running pass routes. There were numerous teams that tried to move up in the first round to get him.
Right.
And they kind of held back. First round picks and second round picks are gold now in the NFL. And I think, those two rookie-wise, I'm going to get some laughs from the people in the NFC North, but I haven't drafted him this year, but I think he's going to have a huge year as Jay Cutler.
Really?
I think he's primed to have a really good year. And when I watched them in their third game of the year, when they played Seattle, you can't really argue they have the best defense in the league right now.
Yep.
And they played in Seattle, and Seattle crushed the Bears in that game. But I more or less watched when Cutler was in the game, and he was throwing the ball good. He hit Marshall on a fade pattern where Marshall, toasted Richard Sherman, and he dropped it. I mean, he was open by about 10 yards and dropped it. And get Elshon Jeffrey and another pass like that he dropped. Those are things that aren't going to happen in the regular season.
Right.
And the third game of the preseason is usually the one where they actually try to start doing some offenses and doing some things. And I think Cutler is going to have a very surprising year. I was surprised how high when I see draft, how high Matthew Stafford is going.
Well, I think the reason I took Stafford is because he's got Megatron. Yeah, he does throw interceptions now and then, but I've had him in the past, and he's always put up huge numbers for me.
He does. He puts up big numbers, but Stafford is one of those guys when you look at the end of the year last year, and there was really no reason for it. He was putting up, like when they played Washington, it was like that all field goal game. There was really no reason why Detroit couldn't score touchdowns. And they've really gotten to an all-offense team. Jim Caldwell as a coach scares me a lot. He is not the most proficient, in my opinion.
Okay.
An offensive coordinator and working with quarterbacks. He plays on a loaded offense. I'll give you that. He's got Kelvin Johnson. He's got Reggie Bush. He's got Joe Bell. They picked up that Embry guy, the tight end in the first round. And it was just one of those things. It's not someone I wouldn't draft, but as you noticed in our draft quarterbacks, Russell Wilson went high, and that's another one that I'm not big on. Not because Russell Wilson isn't a good quarterback. He is. He's not going to throw the ball that much in a game.
Well, I suppose he
plays with very ball control.
Yeah.
In fantasy, you want your quarterback to throw for 250 to 300 yards. You want him to throw you a couple touchdowns. And Russell Wilson does have the running aspect of it, but Marshawn Lynch is their offense.
Right, absolutely.
Until he falls apart, they're going to be giving him the ball 30, 35 times a game. He's going to get the goal line carries. Wilson is a game manager, which there's nothing wrong with that. He doesn't throw many interceptions, which is good. He does run the ball, but you're looking at, your average week of 220 yards passing and maybe 30 or 40 yards rushing,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns. He lost his best receiver in Golden Tate. Every time you win a Super Bowl, everybody says, "Oh, they're going to be back next year." How many times have we seen that?
Right, that's true.
How is this team going to be beat? How's that team going to be beat? Well, you're going to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think you're going to see a down year from Peyton Manning this year. Seattle gave a blueprint on how to beat that team. Rough them up over the middle, because all they can do is throw short passes.
Mm-hmm.
You start taking those guys over the middle, like that one guy did to Welker in the preseason. They don't like running those routes anymore.
Right, this is true. I mean, you saw it all those years with Randy Moss. He never wanted to go over the middle.
He didn't, but that's just because he was a beast.
Right.
I mean, it's talking about Fantasy Football Hall of Fame, Randy Moss. Well, some of the years he put up, and I think he gets a bad rap because they're like, well, he didn't go over the middle and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? Randy Moss could pretty much catch whatever was ever thrown to him.
Right.
I have never. Go ahead.
Like in our draft, I took Ray Rice. Is it a gamble, you think, taking Ray Rice? I mean, he's out the first 2 games. I mean, what are your thoughts on like Ray Rice and even Dwayne Bowe too, who seemed to drop pretty far also?
Dwayne Bowe, both those guys are good picks. I think there was something going on with Ray Rice last year because he just didn't have his normal. The whole Baltimore team, I think they had a Super Bowl hangover.
Right.
They just didn't play very. Flacco had a horrible year. Ray Rice had a horrible year. It's Ray Rice hasn't had a good off season, and that's a little bit of an understatement.
Just a tinge.
But I think that's also gonna fire him to be that much better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just one of those things, and I'm not gonna give you any of my jokes about nobody can hit the hole harder than Ray Rice.
Right.
But yeah, I think Ray Rice is a good pick. The problem with that is, where did you draft him? Because you are sitting him for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think I got him in like the 4th round or something like that.
That's not a bad pick, because running backs, as you saw, are extremely slim. And
right.
Other than Adrian Peterson, Marshawn Lynch, Jamal Charles, LaShawn McCoy, after that, you want the guy who's going to be the main focus of your team's offense. That's what you want out of your running back. When you start getting in these offenses where they're 2-headed monsters, one carries the ball a certain time, the other one gets the goal line carries, then I like to stay away from those teams. I mean, you look at a guy like Marshawn Lynch, who I don't know how he went in our draft, but I think he went like the top 10.
He was my first pick actually, because running backs were just flying.
Any guy whose main food group is Skittles, you have to like.
Hey, I'm down with that. Who would you really want to avoid this year?
Well, that's a tough one. Manning was one of those. Although I took Julius Thomas high, the only reason I say that is because where was he taken in our draft? Like the 4th or 5th?
Manning? Yeah, he was taken. Taken in the 1st round. Yeah.
I think you're going to see teams scheme him a lot differently this year than they did last year. Keep in mind, he plays in the weakest conference in football, the AFC West. It's horrible. I mean, the Chiefs made the playoffs last year, and the Chiefs aren't that great.
Right.
But this year, they play all the teams in the NFC West this year, when the NFC West is like every team in that division has a great defense. Mm-hmm. So they're playing against not only tough teams, but tough defenses. I don't know what the status with Welker is. I'll tell you this: he's not playing for the first couple weeks.
Right. Well, he's
concussions in a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And there you lose your main slot guy. They lose Eric Decker as a wide receiver. They always have guys. Denver's good at filling people in, and Manning can pretty much work with anybody. Mm-hmm. But people are drafting him thinking they're going to get that 45 to 55 touchdown ratio. I don't see that this year. I see maybe the mid-30s. And at that point, he's overvalued that high.
Well, let's say, for instance, we'll take a look at our 1st round. LaShawn McCoy, Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson, Matt Forte, Eddie Lacy, 5 running backs in a row, Kelvin Johnson, Marshawn Lynch, Jimmy Graham, going in the first round.
He's going to go in the first round in a lot of drafts.
Yeah, I did see him pop up like that. But is it smart to take a tight end in the first round like that?
Depending on what your options are and how you want to go, because really it's Jimmy Graham, Julius Thomas, and Rob Gronkowski. And Gronkowski's kind of on the outside looking in right now. But if you have one of those guys, you have a huge advantage, especially Jimmy Graham, who scores 12 touchdowns a year.
Right.
You know, when you start looking at your second tier of running backs, you know, that you would take maybe towards the end of the first round, the beginning of the second, how much different is that from some of the other guys? You don't really know. At least with those tight ends, you know what kind of production you're going to get out of those guys. And in a Drew Brees offense with Jimmy Graham,
true.
You know, he's going to put up points, and you can't really double anybody in that New Orleans offense. It's kind of, you can't double Jimmy Graham because there's guys running all over the place. And he's really a wide receiver as a tight end. You know, and they joked about that in the offseason with his contract, but if you watch him, 80% of the time he lines up split. He's not blocking anybody.
Well, yeah, and that goes back to you know, the whole passing league mentality now too.
Yeah, and that's the way the tight ends are going. And there's so many teams that run the two tight end set, which scares me a little bit. You know, I mean, in the traditional scoring league, I think Kyle Rudolph is going to have a huge year this year. Because Kyle Rudolph is one of those guys that the Vikings committed a lot of money to.
Yep.
But he's a very good tight end when healthy. He's probably one of the best. You look at him in the Pro Bowl last year, he was like, you know, catching everything.
Well, and Castle seems to have a good rapport with him too.
He does. And I like Matt Castle. Matt Castle isn't going to throw 400 yards in a game. But
no,
he's going to do enough to keep people from putting all the guys in the box, stop Peterson. I think what you're going to see this year with Norv Turner a lot is using Cordell Patterson. And that's another kind of a sleeper type pick there. A lot of the ways that they use Alvin Harper in their early Dallas Cowboys teams, they would use him on really wide receiver screens almost exclusively.
Yeah,
and
this is true.
What would happen is he would break these big runs because he was so fast. So then all of a sudden the safeties would creep up because they're waiting for these wide receiver screens that they're getting killed on for 10, 12, 20 yards every time they do it. What happens? Patterson's by them in a flash. And that leaves it open for the big plays. So I think he's both him and Rudolph. I mean, when I say sleeper, I think the Vikings are going to have a capable offense this year. It's their defense that actually scares me.
Well, I mean, I don't think the defense looked that bad in the preseason. And granted, it's preseason, and you're not seeing the real playbooks, but it seemed like they stepped up a little bit.
The thing that scares me though is he playing in a division with Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, and Jay Cutler.
Right.
All those teams are going to be passing a lot, and you know that guy that we drafted last year out of Florida State, what was his name? Xavier something. He was really a good rookie. Towards the end of the year, he really came on. I like their defensive backfield. It's just, you know, not having Jared Allen anymore. I know he was tailing off in his career, but you know, there's going to be some issues there. Luckily, Mike Zimmer is a defensive coach, so I'm hoping he can do something about that.
Yeah. So okay, we're going to look at week 1. You put together a little list of who you had on your team, who you would start, or who do you think who should start? You know, looking at the matchups and who to avoid, and maybe a sleeper pick.
Yeah, I mean it's when we're kind of going position by position here. You know, I can tell you who, and this is going to surprise a lot of people when I tell you this, but Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. I have a feeling that Green Bay is going to come out and they're going to put up a lot of points against Seattle, and people are laughing when I think this. I just think this is a nationally televised game. Seattle has almost gotten to the point, especially with some of their defensive people, that they're kind of their shit don't stink. They think they're the best thing ever since sliced bread, you know?
Yep.
And the way that these new penalties, it's going to be interesting to see how these are going to be called. Green Bay is going to pass and pass and pass and pass. And Eddie Lacy is a good running back, but he's another one who surprised me how high people are taking him. Because you look at his numbers from last year, a big reason for that is Aaron Rodgers was hurt for 7 games.
True.
they were running Eddie Lacy 25, 30 times a game. When Rodgers is healthy, the way that their offense is set up with McCarthy, it's a pass-first offense. And Rodgers really set the tone with it. Now, maybe they're trying to keep Rodgers healthy for a full season, because their offensive line is not too good.
Right, and that seems to have been the problem with them for a while. That seems to have been the problem with them for a while, too. What's that?
It has. Rodgers is the type of quarterback, though, and he almost responds better to pressure because he gets out of the pocket a little bit. He can run. He can kind of improv a little bit. And, I just see him having a big week this week.
Okay, what about running backs?
Running backs, I mean, it's one of these things where, it was funny because, when we were talking to Brad during our draft, I didn't know if any of the Pop brothers from Pittsburgh were going to be playing this week or what they were doing with that. Like, seriously, how do you think that smoking pot and driving high is not against the law? Like, that was their defense.
I didn't even hear about that.
You didn't hear about that?
No, I didn't.
Le'Veon Bell and LeGarrette Blount. And his last name is Blount, okay? Yeah, it's surprising that he's smoking marijuana.
Right.
But yeah, that was their defense when the police officer pulled him over and they asked him, are you guys intoxicated? He's like, no, we've just been smoking marijuana. That's what they told the cop.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, that is funny.
I mean, it's one of those things where, I just get a real kick out of some of these guys,
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to running backs, this week, obviously LaShawn McCoy, Philadelphia, one of the best running backs in the league, going against Jacksonville. That game should be a blowout.
Right.
Jacksonville's defense is a little improved. And I just think that, he's going to have a big game this week. Another running back, this is a guy I like, but I will never draft him because he's so injury prone. But when he plays, he's probably a top 3 or 4 running back in the league. DeMarco Murray from the Cowboys. They play the 49ers, and the 49ers, it seems like every day one of their guys is getting busted for domestic abuse or putting a gun up in the airport or
right.
I mean, really, they're a franchise that's a little bit in turmoil right now, and I think that's definitely going to be a good pickup. When you start, because those are two that I really look at. I think Adrian Peterson's going to have a good game, although he is going against the St. Louis front seven, which is very formidable.
Right.
But Peterson is one of those guys where he's going to break off that 50 or 60-yard run. He's going to have 20, 25 carries. I think the Vikings win that game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think so too. That's an interesting point about Peterson. If Castle's able to, do what we think he's going to be able to do is, manage the offense and kind of break up that 9 in the box or 10 in the box that people like to run against Peterson. You think that's only good things for Peterson?
Well, it's good things for Peterson, and you have a healthy Kyle Rudolph. You have Greg Jennings, who quietly didn't have that bad of a year last year.
Right.
He started off kind of slow, but then he was starting to build some rapport with Castle, and also Cordell Patterson. I mean, that was a great trade for us. I mean, Percy Harvin is a good player.
Yeah.
When he's healthy, and that's the key thing. When he's healthy, Seattle learned that because I think he really turned around that Super Bowl game around early on.
Right. He did.
He's a difficult matchup, and Cordell Patterson the same way. But the thing about Cordell Patterson is he's built almost like a Randy Moss in a sense, where he has that big tall frame, he can jump, he's got that speed, and he was actually for I want to say it was like 2 or 3 semesters, he was actually kicked out of Tennessee. Like, how do you do that? That's like being kicked out of Florida State.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, or you in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, Randy Moss still holds the record. What was he kicked out of Florida State and Miami? It's like, really?
Yeah, that's impressive.
It's like, But yeah, I was the first one to curse on Facebook when we didn't draft Johnny Manziel.
Johnny 8-Ball.
And he, I still think Manziel could be a good quarterback, but I watched Bridgewater in that second and third game this year, and a little bit in the fourth game. But they weren't playing any of their starters anymore in the fourth game, really.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to gauge. He really, it was one of the things that I laughed when Scout said this about. There was a scout on ESPN who was talking about, why Bridgewater dropped, and they said because at his pro day, he was really bad. His accuracy was off and everything. And you know what Bridgewater's answer for that was?
What's that?
He's used to guys in his face. He's used to being rushed in a game atmosphere.
Right.
When you're in the pocket. And I'm like, really? I mean, you can't complete a pass because of that. But then if you watched him play in those preseason games, he does have a poise in the pocket that not a lot of quarterbacks have. He doesn't have happy feet. He'll sit in there and he'll take a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not saying he's the next Warren Moon or anything like that, but I think he could be a very competent quarterback for us for the next 10 years.
Right. So who else do you have for wide receiver?
Wide receiver, obviously, the Detroit Lions are going against the New York Giants. I mean, Calvin Johnson is going to have 4 guys on him at all times. If he's still going to have like 3 or 4 catches, you're going to be like, oh my God. I mean, Jeff Charles is in Korea right now, and he's still talking about Calvin Johnson.
Oh, of course.
But I talked to him, and he said he's going to be starting Herman Moore and Barry Sanders this week too. So I don't know if I'd take what he says to gospel.
Dude, he loves the Lions so much. When Scott Mitchell gets done with The Biggest Loser, he'll probably end up drafting him too.
Yeah, isn't The Biggest Loser like one of those shows that, not to get off topic here, but like you almost feel good when you order a pizza during it?
Oh, I feel great. I love eating pizza and mainlining Mountain Dew while I'm watching The Biggest Loser. It's amazing.
Because, it's kind of like living in Wisconsin, And that's the great thing about living in Wisconsin is like sometimes you think, I have put on some weight. I don't look as good as I used to. And then you walk into Walmart and you see something that would totally eclipse you and be like, you know what? I got a good 2 years of hibernating and eating whatever I want before I turn into that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just, you've seen it. You've been to Milwaukee. You've been to Green Bay. I mean, it's a different it's a different animal there. And another wide receiver that I had him on a lot of my teams last year that I love. Would I want to be stuck in the same bar with this guy? No, I probably wouldn't. But Des Bryant from the Cowboys, he's just a beast on the football field.
He is.
And he can't really be stopped. He's like Calvin Johnson in a sense, Those 2 guys are, and then, also Demaryius Thomas with Denver. He's definitely going to be the focal point with Manning now.
Mm-hmm.
He catches a lot of balls, him and Julius Thomas. And, they're gonna have huge years. I'm waiting a little bit on Julio Jones, who's a receiver I like, but he was out most of last year, and he was out for a good portion of the preseason this year. So I'm waiting a couple weeks on him where he's really going to start to put up the big numbers. The Chicago offense scares me in the fact that they're going to put up lots of points, but you got Alshon Jeffrey, who had a breakout year last year, and you have Brandon Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing against Buffalo, another team that is not great in the defensive secondary. And I expect them to have big games, but, it's hard to predict when you got 2 receivers like that.
Yeah, this is true. Looking at the tight end position really quick, who pops out at you?
Jimmy Graham, Julius Thomas. Obviously, you got Gronk. You're going to want to play him until he's hurt, which might be, next week.
True.
It's one of those things where the tight end position has actually become one of the more important positions in fantasy football going forward.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started playing, and Mark Bavara was a stud.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot else.
True.
And
True.
It wasn't like tight ends were almost like the 4th option in an offense. You look at the old school Vikings when they had like Steve Jordan and Stu Voigt and guys like that. They were never like the first option. Whereas now, with a lot of teams, the tight end is the first option.
This is true.
Like you look at the Vikings offense, they do a play action with Peterson. Castle is going to be going to Kyle Rudolph the majority of the time.
Yeah.
Because it's a short, accurate pass, and it's. Norv Turner has made all-stars out of rodeo guys like Jay Novacek.
Mm-hmm.
and made them into Hall of Fame tight ends. So
Yeah, this is true.
I'm excited to see what they're going to do offensively this year. Their line needs to hold up and stuff like that, and kickers, it's one of those things. Like, it's hard to gauge. I always get a kick out of you. Listen to Matthew Berry. Well, I would really play the matchups when you're playing this kicker. Really? Like,
yeah, it's
such a one thing. You're not going to get a kicker very often that's going to kick 6 field goals in a game or something like that. It's really hard to predict. So what I always recommend to people is pick the best matchup for you. And it's usually a team that's going to score a lot of points, whether it be Denver, whether it's going to be New England. Now, tell me if this didn't surprise you, how late Tom Brady went in that draft.
Yeah, he went, God, I was just looking at it. It was, it was like the 8th round or something like that.
And as far as I know,
6th round, 5th round, I'm sorry.
Like that. And that surprised me because the guy, I wouldn't call him a sleeper, but the guy I was really high on this year, I don't like, because I think quarterbacks are overvalued. Because I think you're better off getting a good, running back, wide receiver, tight end in that first round.
Mm-hmm.
But a guy I really like is Andrew Luck. Because he's going to pass for a lot of yards.
Yeah.
He also can run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to run it in the end zone. And they don't have a great running game, which means they're going to pass all day long. And they're another team that's in just a horrible division.
Mm-hmm.
So just by default, they're going to get – he's going to put up some points. I always like getting guys – like last year in one of my leagues, it screwed me over because I ended up taking a risk on – I don't remember who it was, but he was horrible. Oh, Kaepernick from San Francisco.
Right.
It was just like very, very inaccurate quarterback. And, he's great when they play the Packers, which makes him one of my favorite quarterbacks. Other than that, I mean, he just, is one of those things where a lot of the times they get overvalued. You look at a guy like, Robert Griffin, who I think you had not last year, but the year before when he was a rookie when you were in our league. And I think you ended up winning the league because
I did, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
so,
go for 150 yards and run for 100.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, looking at this week's matchups, just give me like 4 or 5 guys that you would want to avoid, and sit them down.
Want to avoid? That's always a tough one, week 1, because it's hard to say what defense is going to be good this year.
Right.
Which ones aren't going to be bad. One of the guys that I would definitely avoid is going to be Frank Gore, even though I drafted him. He did not play much in the preseason. Frank Gore is one of these guys that takes a couple weeks for him to get going. And I just would stay away from him. Another one that I would stay away from, and he got drafted high in a lot of drafts, was Sammy Watkins, who's actually a rookie. But he's been pretty banged up. Buffalo's quarterback situation is absolutely atrocious. I wouldn't invest a lot into that. So it's just kind of one of those things where I would be a little careful with that, because I think Arian Foster's another one. I'm not big on him this year. I don't think he's gonna have a real great year.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not a lot that come to my mind where I think they're gonna have bad weeks. It's hard to really tell who's gonna be good and who's not gonna be good. Obviously Ray Rice is gonna have a big week this week.
Yeah.
So I would definitely sit him. But yeah, it's week 1. Like, going forward in the year, it's going to be a little more interesting. So we're going to kind of get a gauge on how these players and how these teams are going to be doing. The one guy, and I don't know if people would consider him a sleeper because he's been a top 5 pick for a lot of years, but who I think is going to have a big year this year is Chris Johnson for the Jets.
Yeah, that's right. He did move up to New York.
Yep. And New York has just a phenomenal defense. Geno Smith is actually looked relatively decent in preseason. It's hard. You would have never think in the same preseason to say, who looked good? Geno Smith and Mark Sanchez. You're like, what? And that's the thing. In preseason can kind of give you false hope on a lot of things because it gets down to the real games. it's a different story. But I like what I'm seeing out of that New York offense. And, it's one of those things where, a lot of these running backs, it's not the guys that you take in the first couple rounds that are going to make your team. It's the guys that you're taking in the 5th and 6th round.
Right.
The rookies or the undrafted guys who end up just being huge for you for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And those are ultimately what's going to be the most important thing,
Well, folks, that was Bauer, our fantasy football guru. We'll talk again. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to start doing this on Tuesdays, because I'm going to have you on every week, and that way it'll give you the whole football weekend to go by. So if you guys want to ask Bauer questions, you need some expert quote unquote advice from the guru himself, you can send them to me through the page, and we'll make sure to get those on to him so he can have some educated answers for you. Bauer, thanks again, man. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, that was an exclusive interview. Our fantasy football guru, Jeff Bauer, joining us, and look forward to having him on every week. Like I said, we are going to start doing the show on Tuesday nights now, so he can have the whole weekend to talk about his, to take in the whole fantasy weekend and the whole football weekend, so he can give you more up-to-date advice. If you want to ask him a question, you need some fantasy football advice, hit me up on the show page. It is Izzy. That's me. Facebook.com/another effing podcast, or hit me up on the Twitter too. That is Izzy_Presley. And I know I talked to him right after the interview, and he is going to be putting together a fantasy football Facebook page, so we'll be able to get that for you as soon as it is available. Folks, I am out of time for this week. Gabby Ray got rescheduled for October. She is going to be. She wanted to wait until the the single's out, and closer to the release of the record when they actually have a date. So, but that will be a fun interview whenever that happens. Working on a Food Network guy, working on a former ECW valet that has worked in the adult entertainment industry, and also working on a sex therapist. Should be interesting. I'm working on a lot of cool interviews. And of course, Bauer will be on every week talking fantasy football. Don't forget to send your questions in, and anything you need advice on in the fantasy football world. Folks, I will see you next week. Don't forget to hit up the sponsors, rockstarleatherworks.com. You want to hit up OneStopAutoLA.com. It's the number one stop auto LA.com. Monty Pittman, September 27th at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and Accept Metal Church in Raven at the Sabin Theater right in downtown Beverly Hills. That should be a lot of fun. You need any help, any help with marketing, publicity, any stuff like that, hit me up. IzzyPresleyProductions.com. And don't forget, if you want to contribute to the show, it is izzy.presley@gmail.com is your PayPal. izzy.presley@gmail.com is your PayPal. Please feel free to send anything you can into the show to make this show bigger and better. Folks, I will see you next week. And don't forget, I do love you all.